Modern video games are made with incredibly complicated, detailed, and even realistic graphics using 3D modeling, rendering, or even motion capture technology or whatever the hell this is. But it wasn't always like this. Before that, we had 2D games made with mostly pixelated graphics in the 1970s and 80s. But I'm talking about a time before that. I mean before video games were even around. I'm talking about some prehistoric shit here. All the way back to the early 20th century, when animation had just hatched from its metaphorical egg. People such as Bill Nolan with the creation of Felix the Cat, and people like Walt Disney with the early iterations of Mickey Mouse. Oh my god, he's kinda hitting that, what? Were some of the animators most known for the most primal form of animation in the 1920s known as rubber hose style animation. Now, you don't have to be 100 years old to understand that back in those days, video games weren't even something that existed. This means that every one of those rubber hose animation artists weren't cooking up on some game maker studio on a computer because, oh yeah, those didn't exist either quite yet. Which means that we would never get that authentic rubber hose animation style in video game format until 100 years later.
Well, Cuphead and his pal Bugman.
7 years, 50,000 hand-drawn frames, and a small team of indie developers from Canada. That's what it took to create the game Cuphead. I've thought a lot about this, and it feels like we may never get a game quite like this again. What even possesses someone to create a game studio to make Cuphead as their first game? Think about just how risky it seems to work on a project for 7 whole years that's this ambitious, with no real promise of making any profit in return, or if people even want something like this in general. It had to be so incredibly time consuming to create a game in this rubber hose art style, even in the 21st century. The workload of making a game like this is borderline unnatural. It's said that there are over 50,000 hand-drawn frames in the game, which were individually inked by Maya Moldenhauer. By the way, her husband Chad Moldenhauer and his brother Jared were the co-founders of Studio MDHR, and she did all this inking of every single frame of Cuphead while raising her child and pregnant with another one. This is just absolutely unbelievable stuff. Can we get a round of applause for her? If all of that risk isn't enough, I don't know if I have to tell you this, but Cuphead is incredibly hard. The fact that this game is the most time-consuming piece of art that was pretty much ever made in terms of indie games, even after it was done, they were willing to take the risk of people not liking it because of its difficulty.
Try again tomorrow.
It really just makes you wonder how they justified this in their minds, that they had already put everything on the line with making the art, but on top of that, you can't even play the game if you're ass at video games, you know what I mean? This game came out when I was 17 years old, and I struggled so hard on my first playthrough, and I kinda hate to admit this, but my first try, I kinda just gave up, okay? Mostly because I was a pimply little 17-year-old nerd whose brain wasn't fully developed, but hey, it could be worse. And I'm pretty sure most of you guys saw this coming, but I have to talk about the game reviewers. Because you take all that risk and you make it even worse with these game reviewers, you know what I mean? It's kind of like when a difficult single player game comes out of this caliber, I kind of just wish that game journalists would just take the day off that day instead, because imagine being a big time game journalist and people value your opinion on video games because, well, you play them for a living and you can't even beat the Cuphead tutorial. No, but seriously, I'm not trying to be disrespectful or rude, but it feels kind of, well, disrespectful and rude for a game journalist to play a piece of art like this and call it trash because it's just a skill issue. But like a couple years later, I remember coming back to this game and just absolutely loving every second of it. And of course by then, it was probably like 3 or 4, maybe 5 years later, I was much better at video games as one gets after you just like grind video games your whole life. Of course I beat it then, and then I came back to it like a couple years later once the DLC came out, and I ended up beating it all over again. And let me tell you, that DLC is an absolute gem. I loved every single second of it, but I need more, okay? It's never gonna happen, but I want more. That's kind of what this whole video is about, right? I know damn well that there's never going to be a Cuphead 2, or they're not going to make anything Cuphead related ever again, and it just kind of sucks, you know? Hey, editing Loki here. I just wanted to pop in to tell you guys that I was doing a little bit of research seeing if there was any information about Cuphead 2. Spoiler alert, there is not. It is not confirmed. It is confirmed that they're working on something at Studio MDHR, but the chances that it's a Cuphead 2 are like slim to none in my opinion, which brings me to the fact that I just saw this video right here on screen.
Unfortunately, Studio MDHR has not yet announced an official release date. The game is confirmed to be in development.
Liar! And it is a clearly ChatGPT written freaking entire video about quote unquote everything we know about Cuphead 2. Guys, don't fall for stuff like this, okay? If you come across a video talking about something that sounds too good to be true and it's an AI voice talking in the video and it's not like a real person like myself, I just want to tell you guys don't fall for it, okay? Back to the video, sorry. And you can kind of tell that nothing like this is ever going to come out again because in the 9 years since, we haven't really got any 1930s style rubber animation type of games or anything like it really. But we do have a little hope with like games like Mouse PI for Hire coming out, which has like a similar art style, which I'm really excited about by the way. But other than that, as far as I know, I'm sure there is some stuff out there, but as far as I know, we haven't really got much like it, which is why I'm so patiently waiting for Studio MDHR to freaking release a new game, man. Somebody at them in the comment section or something. Tell them to make a new game. They're probably working on something, but Cuphead wasn't made to appeal to a broad audience whatsoever. Matter of fact, this game was made out of pure obsession with 1930s art style. I'm just gonna guess that none of you were born like over 100 years ago, so I'd imagine that nobody is really nostalgic for this kind of art, yet it works anyway. And for some reason, even though, you know, obviously I wasn't born 100 years ago either, it almost feels like I have a natural sense of nostalgia for this for whatever reason. And it's kind of like a rare example of a game that you know for a fact whether or not you're gonna like it the second that you fight the first boss. And it's definitely only for people who like a good challenge. I guess what I'm trying to say is that this game is for a very specific niche audience. For some reason to me, it feels like this game was somehow something that existed before the game came out because of how special and unique every character in this game feels. That being said, this game feels tight and compact with zero bloat, unlike most modern games, you know, with like open world games and all their insanely big maps with millions of side quests and whatnot. No, Cuphead stays right on track and knows exactly what it wants to accomplish the entire time. I know it's just a glaze fest of Cuphead at this point, but the one thing I want to praise the most about this game is that it keeps things surprisingly simple. Most other games have almost way too many things going on all the time, and with not a single button on your controller not being put to use for something, while Cuphead does the exact opposite. This game doesn't even use the right or the left trigger on your controller, and most of the time all you really need to do is just jump, move, and shoot. You know, the only main goal of this game is to really just be a badass Cup and just kill King Dice and the devil too, I guess. Unless you're fighting Grim Matchstick, then your goal is to just get your ass kicked, if you're me at least. But the funny thing about Cuphead is that it doesn't even care if you quit. I mean, even on the simple difficulties, this game is incredibly hard and you don't even get much of a tutorial. It just kind of throws you to the wolves and it's like, well, if you don't like our game, screw you. It's whatever, I guess. Have you ever played a game that ruined every other game for you because of how good it was? Yeah, that's exactly how I feel about Cuphead. From the gameplay to the art style to the ridiculously good soundtrack, Cuphead is an insanely unique experience that gets my heart pumping every time I get close to defeating a boss that I've died to 50 times already. And the first time you beat Cuphead, you'll go to other games and feel like they're just a walk in the park in terms of difficulty. I mean, you'll feel like you can do anything you put your mind to after beating that damn Phantom Express. Oh my god, dude, it's so hard. There's really no other feeling than the sense of accomplishment you'll feel after completing this game, and it feels like the most innovative indie game that I've ever played, which is ironic considering that it's meant to be a love letter to the art style from like 100 years ago, which is why I truly believe that we will never ever get another game similar to Cuphead, because it feels like it was just lightning in a bottle, and the time that it came out was the same time indie games were just blowing up all across the board. And the fact that we'll never get another game like this is just such a sad yet beautiful thing to me, because I will forever go back to Cuphead and replay it over and over again countless times because it never gets old, and I think that's just wonderful. And you know what else is a wonderful thing? My favorite comment from last video, and also my beautiful niche community. I hope you guys enjoyed this glaze fest of Cuphead and just kind of my take on why I think Cuphead is just such a unique and incredible game that will never get anything like ever again. Maybe until Studio MDHR makes another game finally, but make sure to let me know if you've played a game that scratches that similar itch to Cuphead in the comment section below. And I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Bye bye.